3, 2, 1.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 80 of the Making Geeks podcast. We are the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. And today we have our full crew with us again with Mr. Josh Price.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Mark O'Keefe.
What's going on?
Mr. Wes Swain.
Hello.
And I am Sean Jolliker. How are you guys doing today?
Everything feels
Much
right with the
better than
world.
last week.
Yes, we're all together.
Yeah, we missed you last week, Josh.
Oh, it's terrible. It was a good episode. You guys did a good job.
Thanks.
No, thanks.
Yeah, that was a
Did you have Double Dragon?
hot ball of. I did. I had,
Oh, God.
I had the hot snakes and I had the pukies.
Uh-huh.
That was bad.
Single Dragon, Double Dragon.
The Bob's whole family got sick, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near all you sickos. And I was doing really, really well. And then we were in the shop one day, we were moving CNC from one side of the shop to the other, and they've all had like the legit flu or like the stomach flu or whatever. And so I was moving the CNC, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up like right now. It was boom. It was that fast.
Wow.
And it was like, I'm gonna either crap my pants or throw up. I can't decide which. And he's like, yep. He goes like, it's time for you to go home. I was like, no, I think it's gonna subside. He's like, it's not gonna subside. It's gonna get worse. I was like, well, this sucks. And
It got worse.
kind of got a little queasy. Yeah, it got worse. It got worse quick.
Wow.
It was nice. I'm staying at Bob's parents' house, and it was like Bob's mom took care of me.
Aw.
brought me some Sprite and some chicken soup. White people remedy.
Yup.
How about you, Mark? How's it going, man?
Pretty good. My brain is fried, but other than that, it's a good fry. ZBrush is hard to learn on your own.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those are hard to learn on your own.
Despite the fact that I'm like, okay, this I can do this in Mesh Mixer, but I can't do this here. And I'm looking up terminology using the completely wrong terminology. I'm just going, wait, no, wait, no. For like 45 minutes before I'm like, oh wait, that's what I was looking for. And yeah, it's a weird program.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way the whole thing's laid out and the way that you do things, but I made an important step today, so I was happy with that.
Good.
And then tomorrow is all hardware. Back to the X-Carve.
Super fun.
What's that in the background?
As soon as you
now
said
it
it stopped. There
Oh,
it
my
is.
heat just kicked on, and it's got kind of a hum. That might be it.
Yeah, it's when you talk.
Let's try.
How dare you keep heat in your house?
How's that? Is that any better? Turn the gain down a little bit.
Anytime you're talking, you hear it.
That's because your microphones are moving background noise. So whenever you start talking, it picks up everything, which is I don't think is okay.
If I get enough of it, just of that recording, I can kind of isolate that and bring it down though.
All right. It'll turn off in a minute. What about you guys? Wes, what have you been up to?
Let's see. Working a little bit on Izzy Swan's website here and there. Dabbling with that. Finishing some more stamps for people's workshops. What else? I went to a maker meetup, a local one here in town. There was this guy, I think this is like, I don't know how many he's had, but he's done a handful of them on Meetup.com for the Raleigh area. And it was at like a coffee shop, and it was like a show and tell kind of thing. So everybody kind of sat around a table. There's maybe 15 or so people there, and it was like a long kind of conference table kind of thing. And if you brought something, either pictures or an item to show, each person had 5 minutes and kind of went like round table, introduced yourself, and it was pretty cool. There's makers of all kinds. Like there was a lot of people with laser cutters, which I was very surprised by. Some Arduino people. Some guy took a little radio apart, like one of those old transceiver kind of radios that used to have like the leather like box kind of shape, and he gutted it and put a speaker, or used a speaker in there and an Arduino, and he had it where you turn the dial and there's 4 stations, and it's basically accessing an MP3 like a card within the attached to the Arduino on an MP3 shield, and had 4 stations, but in between each station, he actually had another MP3 file of just static. So you like tune in your station, and it would go, it's kind of a neat little add-on to that. And there's one guy who was into Arduino as well. He had like a little, those glasses that the eye doctor gives you when you dilate your eyes. It was sunglasses that looked like that, but he had like this little tiny Adafruit trinket, which is like a little board that runs LEDs and stuff. And he had that tucked in the inside of the glasses along one of the arms. Had like a little battery on the bridge of his nose. You couldn't see it from the outside. It was just kind of on the inside. And then he had like some strips of LEDs that would like pulsate and do different patterns. And he's like, yeah, I'm into electronics, and I'm also into this. And he reaches into his bag and he's like, I'm into quilting. And I'm like, wow, that was a complete shift I was not expecting. So it was a nice myriad of talents and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I think I brought three or four people from our meetups that we had at my house and other things around that are in our more immediate group that we're in. This other kind of grouping is sort of independent, so I'm kind of bringing 2 sides together, and it's pretty good. So it's a lot of fun. Hope to do that again. It's kind of one of my little resolutions or kind of goals this year, is to be more involved in the local maker, kind of community, not just digital, online, across country, across the world kind of thing. Why ignore people that are already here, so.
Yeah.
Is it loud when I move that? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
This week, I haven't really done a whole lot. I'm still making my way through editing the Can Crusher video that I'm working on with my son. We have 1 or 2 more shots just to kind of finish things up. And I probably announced the contest a little bit prematurely, but I still want to do that. In fact, I'll probably be picking your brains for some ideas how to handle a couple parts of it. Because I'll probably end up just doing it as a drawing if somebody kind of links or submits their custom Can Crusher as opposed to doing it as a contest of which one's best. I think I'd rather just do it kind of like as a drawing. But I'll be picking your guys' brains a little bit later for some details regarding that stuff. But that's what I'm currently working on. And then doing a lot of writing, too, for the other site that I started.
I saw that. Man, you've been doing a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to sit and write than it is to get out in the shop some days. So I'm making progress with something at least a little bit every day. And I have a lot of other plans coming up for that stuff, too. So that's what's going on.
Nice.
So I'm wondering if we should let Mark kind of introduce the topic for today, because I think he's really giddy about it.
All right. Well, there has been a not brandy, but fairly new show on Netflix that just came out that is giving almost every child born between 75 and 89 flashbacks. It's called The Toys That Made Us. It is a documentary series about how these toys came to be, the design process, the concept process, and it was fascinating. So, especially the HeMan episode. I had no idea that's how that started. So we're going to talk about that and how we liked it, and if we didn't like it, what we were surprised by, and stuff.
Maybe we can throw in some toys that made us, like individually as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great little point.
So what'd you guys think of it?
I was quite impressed. My favorite part is the opening theme song and the animation. That's my favorite part.
Because it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's gloriously bad.
Yeah.
Unabashedly bad.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And I can't get it out of my head either. Just like a bad 80s theme song to a cartoon.
Yep.
That's why most of the toys were made. Or no, I'm sorry. That's why most of the cartoons were made.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite episode? I guess that really depends on what toy was your favorite.
Yeah.
I was a He-Man kid.
Same.
And I think my favorite part about the He-Man stuff, besides it just not really having a point, like it was one of the toys that did not come from a cartoon. A cartoon came from the toy, and so I had the lion, the green lion, that like it wasn't opposable. You just had to like his back legs, front legs, back legs, front legs whenever you'd play with them. And I always wondered like why that was so, like where did they get that animal? And to listen to that guy, I was like, oh, we just raided this other thing that had a big tiger that we already had the rights to, and we just used that. He rides on a tiger that came from a whole nother toy set. I'm like, of course he did.
Yeah, the coolest sidekick animal to have probably ever existed was, meh, take that.
Yeah.
Paint it green, put stripes on it. It's
Like
just
he could have ridden on a Mr. Potato Head. It was that random. That's where Roller Bob came from on Mask.
Yeah, I have no idea about the history of Mask, but I would love to hear that episode. My favorite part was when the guy's like, oh, well, I did the math of how big and how tall he should have been. He weighed in real life 719 pounds and was 13 foot tall or something like that. I'm like, wait, what?
My favorite part of the He-Man one especially was like the gall and the balls that dude had to go in the meetings with several the toy companies and like, hey, trying to sell it. And they're like, hey, it'd be really cool. We got a comic book. Oh yeah, a comic book. Yeah, awesome. Goes to Toys R Us. Oh, we got a cartoon. Oh yeah. Oh.
When did you think of that? Just now.
Dude.
I wish I had that kind of mental capacity to just come up with. I mean, is it a lie at that point if you have full intentions of making it happen?
10 seconds
ago, you guys
yeah.
got to see firsthand like my ability to pull something out of my butt like that. So I think if I was in a meeting like that,
yeah, you'd be the person to do it. But still, it still just amazes me to watch that. Even when you do it, I'm just like, I can bullshit, but I'm also I can BS, but it comes down to. I know, like, I can't go too far into it because I don't know if I can pull it off.
You gotta believe. That's all it is. If you believe, then you can convince others to believe. And that guy was like, yeah, sure. We got a comic book. He's like, how hard is a comic book to make, really? Like,
yeah, but then I love, but 5-year-olds don't really read.
Yeah. Oh, crap.
That's we got a cartoon.
Yeah.
When the hell did we get a cartoon? Well, just now.
Who are we going to get to make it? Oh, just like the top, cartoon company of this period.
Yeah. The cartoon just happens to be one of the best that was created during that time.
Yeah.
That was I mean, everything about this, I'm going to say that was my favorite part. It was like the entire thing is so fascinating to just see like, oh, okay, well, we need a cartoon. Well, that sounds like a great idea. Hold on, give me 2 weeks. Comes back. That's the most amazing cartoon I've ever seen.
Have you tried to go back and watching those episodes now?
Yes, I introduced it to Samantha.
Oh,
I can't do it.
She loves it.
Get through it.
She loves it.
That's like watching Thundercats, though.
I don't expect to like it, but I don't know. I didn't think my view would change that much. I thought I'd still enjoy it, but I can't even finish an episode right now.
The animation is very interesting now that I pay attention to how that stuff works and everything. Like,
yeah,
Oh wow, they use that sound effect like a million times. The little sound.
Yep.
They use it like
Yeah.
every single scene.
Did you ever notice? Did you ever notice the way that He-Man runs?
Yeah,
It's like nobody can run like that. He's like at this type of angle.
they always run diagonally, like out of frame, or like across from left to right or right to left, like Scooby Doo chasing somebody. You know.
Like, I forget who was talking about it, but they were talking about the newer cartoon, the one that Cartoon Network rebooted. And they're like, see, in that cartoon, Prince Adam was a little dude, and then he turned into a big dude. In the old cartoon, He-Man was worse than Clark Kent, because all he did was change his shirt, or take it off. There were no glasses. It was the same hair and the same face.
Different voice though. That must have been what did it. I don't know.
It wasn't even a different voice. It was just more like, oh, like stupid voice versus, okay, now I'm going to whoop on you.
It's funny to watch it using our current kind of mentality when it comes to like Marvel movies and stuff, because they had an episode where they had like the little thing at the end where it's like the motto or the learning moment, right? Yeah, exactly. And he's like, kids, it's important to keep in mind safety, especially when you cross the street. You have to look for cars, blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. So He-Man knows about cars, okay? And so like I started going on this train of thought, like wait, he knows kids are watching. Wait, so you can't. I don't know. It was sort of like a rabbit hole of logic that the whole thing on it sort of like
He
disintegrated.
broke the fourth wall in a really weird way.
He only knows about the fourth wall at the end of the episode, and he forgets every other time.
It's an Orco spell, I guess. Maybe.
So what kind of like nostalgia and memories did some of these episodes bring back for you?
All of it.
Yeah.
God, like the commercials and the toy aisles and just the whole 9 yards, man. I'm just sitting there going, I really honestly feel like I'm 8 years old again, or 5 years old, or which I can't remember. But it's just...
They showed a couple of the toys, and I was like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot I had that one. I forgot it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the little snake He-Man one, like the whole line of the snake ones. I had a bunch of those and the Horde ones. I didn't remember how those interconnected with the shows, and that just... It was like a repressed memory. Either way.
So they should just rename it Warm Fuzzy Feelings.
And their explanation for She-Ra was kind of interesting, too.
That was funny as... Oh, God. And the amount of money that they pulled in and then just immediately stopped pulling in.
I think they said at its height that pulled in 400 million.
Yep, and then 7.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, no, the insane part was they hit 488 million, and then the next year, 7 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when they first said it, I was like, oh, they only dropped $7 million. That's not bad. It's like, no. They dropped down to 7 million from 488. I'm just like, oh, what happened?
Yeah. With inflation, too. That's...
Yeah,
or
like,
not including inflation. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
I gotta find that out now.
And we were playing with a lot of hunks of plastic in the 80s. I mean,
Oh, God,
was
yeah.
some insane numbers. One of the things that made me, or that kind of reminded me of, is basically how I used to play compared to like watching my kids play now. And I watched a lot of TV growing up, and it was during these years that I was living with my grandparents, so I was kind of off my own. But I would watch a show, and then whatever toys I had from that genre or that series, I would recreate the story, or I'd try to make my own based on that. So it was very much a pairing of how I would play. And because my kids don't really watch much TV, they don't really do the same thing. And the closest they could do is with some of their Legos, if they watch like the Lego movie or the Batman Lego movie. That's kind of the extent of it for them.
That's a good point, though. You get to use your imagination a lot more when you have a toy that doesn't already have a script and doesn't have a personality and doesn't have already established characters.
But I liked it better that way because it gave me a better foundation for the world that they were in. And then I just invented other stories on top of that.
And like they said, the person watching felt more connected to their toy and to the show because it's
Yep.
like a reference to something they have, and it's kind of interesting, like the psychology behind it and stuff.
Oh my god. All right, real quick. 488 million would have 6 zeros behind it, right? I counted that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Are you ready for this number in 2018 prices?
Tell about the inflation.
$972,855,242.72.
$1 billion.
They made
Nice.
almost $1 billion in 1980s money.
Sounds about right, though.
Oh my god, man. And all you had to do was slap some clay on a barbarian toy.
Kid bashing. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an oversimplification, but I mean, it is.
That's what sold it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in a pitch like that myself, but I've been around people that have done it, and I was training for doing similar pitches, so more desperate things have happened. Although I was more on the script side, not really, toy side or anything, looking at stuff.
But you could see after they started getting some steam, and they were like, "We need more," and then they just start like flopping out nonsense.
Yeah.
Like they had so many ancillary characters that I see them now because there's a retro kind of toy store in the mall here, and they have a HeMan section, and along the top, that is just they have the Castle Grayskull, they've got Skeletor's house, and they've got all the stuff, and then underneath they've got like used toys that are in these little plastic kind of like thermo bags. And I'm like, who in the world is this? Like, what character are all of these guys? And I'm like, I remember having some of them, but I'm like, what? This guy had like the big jaw that had the gears in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's this thing. I had him. I have no idea who he is or what he does.
I think his name was Lockjaw, wasn't it?
Trapjaw.
Trapjaw.
He was in the cartoon.
But that show, well, I mean, yeah, he's one of.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about the Ninja Turtles toys and how Ninja
Dude.
Turtles did that too.
I was about to bring that up
Like-
too. Yep.
Yeah, like bad. And they have their core. And
Yep.
they're like, okay, we need all of the other radiating, goofy characters, like the one-offs. And they ran with it.
I had a Ninja Turtles toy that was literally a character made out of garbage. Like his character was garbage. Like it was a garbage can. Yeah, I mean, it's like, but I love that one.
Muckman. That was Muckman.
Muckman. And it had the duck one too. It looked like Howard the Duck with a aviator jacket on.
Ace Duck.
Yeah, I had that one too.
I always liked Ray Fillet.
I think Mark needs to go on like a quiz show for this stuff because he knows every single
really.
one of these.
No, I don't know all of them, but I have watched the cartoon, and some of the more weird characters I remember having. But yeah, Ninja Turtles had some weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little
Humphrey
bit after my
Bogart,
time.
Humphrey Bogart, Donatello.
Yeah, it had all the
Mhm.
turtles in that. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were all.
Mm-hmm. It was like a line of them.
Yep. So I could go outside. They had their goofy face mask.
Yeah, they're streaker trench coats.
Yeah.
And a big floppy Carmen Sandiego hat.
When you guys were growing up, did you the toys that you had? How often did you take them outside and play and like in the dirt and stuff like that?
Every nice day possible. My GI Joes were in the pool. I had this spot in my backyard with my parents would have a garden, and then it was my dad's like wood chopping area, so it was just dirt, and he'd let me play with the shovel. So I'd dig holes like as big as me, and then with the mounds I'd make like the Cobra dirt castle, and then get the hose and just go nuts. And then when I got a little older, I found out how to take them apart and paint them and put them back together.
I think I only did that with GI Joes, the one or two that I had,
Yeah.
because it seemed like those were meant to be outside on the dirt.
Oh yeah,
I never did it with any of my other ones.
you
Yeah,
take
me
some of the
neither.
boats apart and put styrofoam in them so they float better.
Never went that far.
Mm-mm. I had Transformers and Ninja Turtles were my go-to. I had a couple of Star Wars, but not really that many.
So let's kind of go around. Which one was like your franchise of choice? So Wes, you said Ninja Turtles and What was
Yeah,
the other one?
Transformers. Like,
And Transformers.
yeah. As far as traditional toys, yeah, those are my go-tos. I mean, I had like the Soundwave with little tapes and everything, like all kinds of. I had one that was like it was almost like a space shuttle or something. And it turned into like a dragon or something. It had like a long neck. I don't even remember what the name of it was.
Oh no! Oh God!
It was like the supersonic Concorde sort of looking thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but it had a lot of them.
It was motorized and it could walk.
No. I also had Scorponok too. That was the one I saved up lots of allowance for. It was like the $40 toy that was at Toys R Us, which at that time, your inflation calculator will tell you, but it was probably it felt like $100 back then. It took me so long to earn up enough money.
You know what blew my mind in the G.I. Joe episode when they said how much the USS flag cost when it came out? They said it was like $84.
Something like that. You figure minimum wage during that time was about $3 an hour.
Yeah.
So you can calculate your inflation based on that.
Yeah, let's see.
Because minimum wage now is like, what, 9?
But yeah, those are my go-tos. I was pretty rough with them. I lived in a second story that overlooked the front yard and had like toy helicopters that I would attach Ninja Turtles to and throw them out the window. I would spin the rotor and throw that thing out the window. It would not fly.
My mom used to, I don't know where she found them, but she used to find these fabric parachutes that you could strap on certain action figures. And that was the best because I'd go to my second floor and throw them out the window, and then they would just careen down nice and smooth.
But those were...
See, this doesn't... $167 for the flag? If something that big came out today, it'd be like $600-700.
It'd be about $300-400
for 7 foot long air. Was that what they said it was? 7 foot long?
Yes, 7 foot long. It was like 3 foot tall.
That's longer than a Power Wheel.
Yeah.
So, Mark, what was your franchise of choice for the toys?
See, my mom was smart, and she got a lot of my toys from garage sales, so I had a bunch of them. I had Transformers, I had the Ninja Turtles. Honestly, I think I ended up playing the most with the G.I. Joes because they were the most hardy. You could beat the crap out of a G.I. Joe. If you snap the rubber band, you get new ones and put them back together. Yeah, I gotta say G.I. Joe because they had the vehicles and the giant jets and just all sorts of stuff. Those are my favorite. How about you, Josh?
I had Mask toys.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about the Centurions, that cartoon, that Power Extreme cartoon. I had those. I was really into like helmets. So if something had a helmet you could take on and off, like I loved it. I don't know what that deal was, and I think it's even followed me into adulthood. But a toy that had a removable helmet, like I loved it. And GI Joes didn't, and I think that was part of the like my brother had GI Joes and I didn't. So they were always around, but they were his thing. But I was always my Mask toys, which I thought were awesome. We had a couple Transformers, and we had Star Wars toys that were left over from I don't remember when. They were just I just remember them being around. But Mask and the Ninja Turtles, they were just abundant, and it was easy. If you were gonna get somebody a birthday present, you're like, get Josh Ninja Turtles, and like no one would get you the same thing twice. Yeah, there's just so much stuff. But yeah, I was always into stuff that had a removable helmet. I don't know. I love that idea. Sean, what about you?
During those years, I moved around a lot in some different living situations, so I lost things a lot. But the years that were probably most stable, I think it was HeMan, which I had about 5 or 6 figures. Star Wars probably about the same, but I had some hand-me-down like vehicles from it. And then Mask. I got really into Mask. And I think I liked it because I was able to get some of the toys right when they came out. It was just at the right time where I was able to convince my grandparents to buy me a couple things. And I got the first thing I got, and I think it was the first thing that a lot of people got, was a motorcycle that turned into a helicopter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I loved that thing. In fact, I took apart the box and cut it apart and taped it, so it was kind of like a garage for it. So I kind of repurposed it that way. And yeah, those were the three. Just whatever I was able to persuade my dad or my grandparents to get me is what I was into. But those are the three things that I pretty much had.
Did you ever have a toy that you really liked or really wanted for like your birthday or Christmas or something, and then your family or friends, bless their heart, they got the like exact wrong one of that kind, or like the knockoff version, like the GoBot for your Transformer, or like my case, I really wanted the Lion Voltron, with the 5 different cats, but I got the friggin' vehicle Voltron. And I it was awesome. It had like 11 parts or whatever, helicopters for shoulders, and it was pretty tall. It was like all of them were, detachable and everything. And I really had a valuable life lesson that day.
Be more specific.
You will be, yeah, well, after a talking to, like, you will be grateful for anything you get,
Yep.
blah, blah, So it's sort of funny. It stuck with me, and I ended up liking that one, but I still never got that, the Voltron that I really wanted. So I was not bitter at all.
I think the Voltron that I ended up with was the Japanese one that all parents, like, it killed kids because they shot missiles down their throats or whatever. But I just remember having a billion little missiles and little tiny spring firing things everywhere. Like, it was I think there was a couple hundred of these things because it was ridiculous. Like, each line had 4 or 5 of these things you could stick onto them. And it was the old die-cast one, so you could beat someone with it and it would still be playable. They need to make toys like that again, just die-cast.
My story, I think, is a little bit similar to Wes's, except it was more of a kind of a competition. For one Christmas, my cousin and I both asked for the same thing. We both wanted the G.I. Joe headquarters that they were making for a period of time. We both wanted it, but my grandma got my cousin the G.I. Joe headquarters and got me Castle Grayskull, which, I wanted the G.I. Joe thing. But that's the reason why I got into HeMan, is because I was given that. And ended up liking it, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I was always a little bit jealous that my cousin got what he wanted and I didn't. But that's the way it goes.
Yep.
Ours were the off-brand Nerf guns, which I hated because they didn't, at the time, they didn't shoot the same size Nerf darts. So you were very specific. Like, if I were to my friend's house and we'd have like a Nerf war, like I would always be running around the room trying to find my like Bobo cigar size.
Don't shoot me! I gotta find my darts.
I was like, no fair. They would shoot each other and they could just pick up the dart that hit them and put it in their gun. And I'm like, I can't use that one. Or they'd have like these really huge ones. They looked like a almost a foot long, and they were fat, and they would shoot off really slow, and they were like, woo! And they kind of like catch air. This thing sucks.
Josh had a lesson about form factors that day.
Yeah. Oh, Christmas time at our house is always. Wes, it was funny you mentioned that. It was like, this is specifically what I want. I want these things.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would she would start Christmas shopping in July. So by the time I would come around to, around Thanksgiving-ish, I'm like, these are the things that I want. And she'd shake her head, okay, that sounds nice. And in the back of her mind, she's like, I've already bought you all of your Christmas presents, and you're not getting any of the things that you want. You're going to get your Bobo Nerf guns. And Season 3 of Speed Racer that we found at Cracker Barrel. He thinks he's going to get what he wants.
So I have a question for you guys regarding all this stuff as a topic, and part of it was briefly mentioned in the documentary. And that, do you think this will ever happen again with toys, or was this some weird, unique period of the 80s?
I think they got to step their game up a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I don't actually. You know what? I take that back. I've seen Cartoon Network cartoons recently. I don't know if they got to step their game up at all. That's a really good question, though.
I think it's definitely different now. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what about Pokemon? Like, it's not necessarily like an action figure like we would do, but I would say that I would like to see the financial statistics on Pokemon versus any one of those other shows or like categories of toy. Like,
Just
besides
wait.
Lego, like Lego is
Lego's in and of itself.
yeah,
I-
Lego
I-
is eternal.
I wouldn't even put Lego in this conversation.
Right.
At least right now.
And I would like to see that graph of, financial reporting. That it with cards and with games and with other stuff, like I think Pokemon can hold its own, even though it's not like an action figure. And I think if there were action figures, like I don't know, I think it would be maybe just as popular. But it's a card game by choice because it's easier to print and easier to get people, and I think your profit margins are better with card games. So maybe they're just a smarter toy company than HeMan or Star Wars was. But even though I was never really into Pokemon, like that was after me. I was after the wave of my adolescence, but I can still respect like they're everywhere, and it's a cultural icon of the time. And people dumped a lot of money into just as much useless paper as our parents did into our useless plastic.
True. Trying to remember what I was going to say. Edit this part out.
Yeah, I mean, because I was thinking about this, and I started getting really nostalgic about the whole thing, about this imaginative play and then the action figures, and is there something missing, or maybe it doesn't matter at all. Just will this ever happen again? Does it seem like it will with that type of play?
And I also gotta wonder if the economy played a bigger part. Because I mean, in the '80s things were not so horrible. I guess.
Rose-colored glasses. I think it just depends.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, because your parents would have had to have the cash to placate you to buy the money or buy these things, right? So,
I think by comparison, the money is just allocated differently now when you compare how much is spent on electronic devices and electronic games.
this is true too.
I think the same amount of money might be spent. We'd have to look, of course, but I think it's just allocated differently.
I think parents are more
Frugal.
I think they're more ready to buy like an iPad, for like what, $400 for a big Christmas present for a kid versus $400 of HeMan equivalent toys.
There's a lot of action
there's
figures.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like a different value proposition. Like, think they'll get more use out of some technology or something, even though that might not necessarily be true. Or I don't know. It just depends on the kid, I'm sure. But
See, I saw a weird. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Well, in that same vein, Wes, do you think that they're trying to justify buying, like, if they were $400 worth of toys versus $400 worth of iPad, that they're like, with the iPad, because I'm going to make you smarter,
right,
or prepare you for
I'm
something
sure.
more?
Yeah, that's their justification. And whether it's correct or not, it's debatable.
See, I saw a weird evolution of it in my own household because of my brothers being so much younger than me, being 10 and 13 years younger than I was, and I grew up having toys and pretty good investment into that. But when my brothers got a little bit older, they stopped playing with toys a lot quicker, and I think my parents liked that because the house was less messy. There was less clutter in the house. I actually think they kind of preferred them maybe sitting in front of a computer or video game, even though they used to complain about it all the time. But I think in a small way they kind of liked that better.
Well, the boys now, they watch a show called Beyblades. Are you kids into this?
My son is.
We crap all over it for being stupid. Because it's a top. Right, that's all it is. It's a top. And they get mad at me because I call it a top. But it's kind of the same. There's a cartoon, and the kids in the cartoon are doing a thing, so they want to buy the toy so that they can act like the kids in the cartoon. And so it's kind of the same deal. It's just
not as overreaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but when we were kids, like that's a character. Here's a,
Hmm.
I think the money allocation is a little bit different because I see them buying a top, and I'm like, you're being fooled. Like I wasn't fooled with He-Man. Like he's a muscle-bound crazy guy that swung a sword. You're know what you're buying. And so in the show in Beyblades, they're like, Ninjihu, do the super spin move. And I'm like, it's a top, brother. Like you have no control over what that thing does. It's the force of gravity. Like it's gyroscopic motion. There's no special spell you can put on it to make it hop or do whatever. It just does what it does. And Deacon's like, no, Dad. And I'm like, boy, like this is making you dumber just because you think that you have control over something that you don't. Like you're stepping one foot is in whimsy and one foot is in the natural sciences. To where when we were in Ninja Turtles or He-Man or G.I. Joes or whatever, like you were fully in the like the show and I'll say the whimsy of it all. Like I can shoot blasters. Like you can't do that in reality, and I was fully on board with being able to shoot blasters. And roller bob, like yeah, everybody should have a roller bob, but there was never mixing like reality. It was always fantasy.
Hmm.
Did you guys pick your friends by the toys that they had? So like, would you befriend somebody who had a set of toys that you wanted to go over their house to go play with?
Toy
Okay,
slash
yeah.
Nintendo? Yeah. Hmm.
Or video game?
You have Contra? Dude, I'm going to be over there every afternoon. Let's do it. You got
Do
Mario
you think you
3?
would have
Holy
been
crap.
Friends? Do you think you would have been friends with that person if you had not known that?
No.
There you go.
Yeah, you know what? I did that once or twice too. I have to admit.
But there had to be some sort of compatibility, though, because I had a next-door neighbor that literally lived right beside me, and they were D-bags, and they had, like, all the best toys. So, I mean, there's still a level of, that'll kind of, like, get your foot in the door through a common interest, and you still end up becoming a friend. But it was sort of like, it bridged that gap. It was something to talk about right off the bat, so. One of my best friends that I still have today, our friendship was started over video games. Like I have lunch with him almost every week. He lives here in Raleigh, but we were in elementary school together, and rode the same bus, and we would always we were in different grades, but we always give each other like evil looks or something, like kids do, just like have a animosity towards someone for no reason. Until the one day he brought like Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine, and I'm like, hey, and I sat behind him, and that was the thing that was the tie that binds us, And I had
Good old
Nintendo
EGM.
Power subscription, so we'd switch them out. Oh, you got Game Pro, dude, Street Fighter, blah blah blah, and it was just that was it. Street Fighter was our jam. So.
A match made in heaven.
Yep. Still, he was the best man at my wedding. I mean, you
Oh,
never
wow,
know.
it really was.
Yep, it was.
There was a kid that was in a grade younger than me that had a bunch of NES games that I didn't have, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna become friends. And so I went over there, and they were gonna go to church or something on Sunday. I'm like, okay, and it wasn't a church that I went to growing up. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go with you, just so that like before we could play.
I'll endure
these games.
this.
Yeah, and so I went over there, and I'm like, all right, let's fire it up because I gotta go with you to this place I don't want to go. And his mom walked in as I'm sitting down in front of the TV, and she was like, there are no games on Sunday. And I'm like, I remember tossing the controller,
quit.
going, this is garbage. And I remember thinking I was bamboozled. I was like, you should have put this up front.
There's no asterisk.
Yeah. And I remember, like, even now, the church that they went to that I could not stand, like, I hated that whole day. Like, if that was my first introduction to church, like, I would be the most atheistic person in the world because it would have ruined all of
A
religion.
Seventh-day Adventist or something.
I remember driving past that church as an adult, and I'm like, liars, all of them. Bunch of liars in there. Heathenistic, no video game playing dirty people.
It doesn't say anything about video games in the Bible. Come on.
So, was there anything else in the documentary that you saw worth bringing up for nostalgia's sake, even?
That GI Joe, the Snake Eyes bit. We can't lose any of the stuff on the other guys. Let's make one guy with nothing on him. Okay, make him a ninja. Most popular figure ever.
You know, I don't think I've ever thought about it before, but I thought it was interesting when they said that all the profit was in the vehicles and not in the figures themselves.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. I never thought that would have been the case because I thought more kids would have had a lot more figures than they would have had vehicles.
It's the same for video game industry. When I worked at Best Buy, they made no money off of video games or consoles.
So
But it was all the
right?
accessories. Yep. Controllers, battery packs, cabling, all the ancillary stuff that went with it.
That's
They
for
made a ton of
that's
money.
for licensing reasons, though. I think. But I thought that the figures, because of being produced in such a high quantity, would have been able to bring down the price and hopefully more profit. But I guess not.
I like how somebody sanded off Barbie's nipples in a meeting. That Barbie episode was. I was on the fence about watching it, but it was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
There was some interesting stuff in the background for some of the people they interviewed in that Barbie episode. That's all I'm going to say.
That stupid chair,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
couldn't stop looking at it.
Oh yeah.
Yes. You're
I
like,
know
wait, was
you're
that,
talking about
was
that.
that, what?
I thought it was like a certain adult type doll at first. It was just slumped over in the chair. And then,
Oh, I saw a meme about that. Is that what that's from?
Yeah, you have something to look
Yes.
forward to.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one yet because I asked Tracy. We were watching the HeMan one.
I think she showed up in the He-Man one too. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, I was like, "Do you have
Yeah,
any
it's
interest in seeing this?"
yeah.
And she started watching it. She's like, "Yeah, okay, I want to watch a Barbie one."
Yeah, I want to meet that lady's interior decorator.
Completely caught you off guard.
$10,000.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So what are the next episodes? What's coming next? They only had the first...
Hello Kitty. What else?
Okay.
It is
Gotta be
Hello
Lego.
Kitty, Lego,
Okay.
Transformers, and the weirdest one of all, Star Trek.
That's a
Star
It's
weird
not going
choice.
to be a long episode
You know, Star Trek had toys.
unless it's is it the Mego one or the little plastic figures one,
Little plastic figures.
or is it the
I-
Playmates Next Generation?
I imagine they're going to try to probably cover the gamut, but it's really a strange choice given other possibilities or things they should have pursued.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even the Cabbage Patch
Lego.
ones you guys talked about last week. Well, Lego's part of it.
Oh, the other one. That's right.
Lego's one of
Ninja
them.
Turtles.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles, Mask.
Sure.
Nintendo. I mean, are they going to count Nintendo? You think, as a toy?
No, that's
No? I think so.
No,
I could see
that'll be a
them
sister
doing,
episode.
like,
The games that made us.
yeah, well, I could see them doing like a special on consoles because that was huge. Like that was in the 80s and 90s. That exploded.
Or Big Wheel. That right there. I had a Knight Rider Big Wheel. The thing was awesome.
That was
I had
really-
Bigfoot.
Did you?
I want to see this as a recurring series.
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely.
There's
do.
no way that they won't do it, considering their track record for this sort of stuff.
Hope so.
I mean, VH1 was based on this after they stopped playing music. So
Yeah.
for years. That's all they did was get nostalgic on things.
The
get
decade that made
comedians
us.
That VH1 special was the first time that I associated the He-Man cartoon with any kind of like homosexuality. Because they had made the claim that He-Man was gay. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then they showed this montage of clips. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, that's way more obvious than I ever really thought about. I'm like, He-Man's hella gay. VH1
Thanks a lot.
ruined stuff.
I'm looking forward to it. It's supposed to come out this quarter, right? Or this half of the year?
Oh really?
I think so.
Cabbage Patch would be a good one because that's just a weird story.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beginning of that was really crazy.
Like, your toy is born. It's not made, it's born at this place in Georgia with a stork over it, and they all have names, and it's just, it's an odd thing that people loved.
Well, how about Garbage Pail Kid cards? Sort of related to that. Do you think they'll bring that up, or is that not really a toy?
I think they could bring it up in that same episode because it's the parody aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then it also spread like the My Buddy and Kid Sister kind of things that were just pretty much bigger versions of Cabbage Patch dolls.
The inspiration from Chucky.
Teddy Ruxpin. I mean, there's all kinds of ones you could do.
Then the ones that ate the kids' hair. I remember those.
Huh?
On purpose?
You guys remember those? Oh, the Cabbage Patch? Oh my goodness. These Cabbage Patch dolls that would eat these like French fry things. And it had a micro switch in its mouth. And as soon as you put it in its mouth, it had these 2 roller wheels that would take it. And it would look like it was eating it, but it would just, the roller wheels would keep pulling the piece of food into its mouth. Then it would go down its throat and like into this little holding thing in its butt. And you'd open its butt and pull out a little pice of food.
But
that was
that a Cabbage
anything that
Patch
touched
Kid?
that. Yeah, it was a Cabbage Patch doll. It was one of the newer ones.
I
And so it
vaguely
was
remember that.
anything that would touch that micro switch, those rollers would go, and it didn't turn off. So kids were getting them like their hair would get stuck in there, and the doll would just like no, all the way up until like kid's scalp, and it would like rip out chunks of these kids' hair.
What?
And I remember it was a Letterman. I think it was a Letterman skit where like one of his stagehands had this like Cabbage Patch doll like glued to the top of its head when it came out.
Huh.
Yeah, it was bonkers, and they got recalled. It was in the 90s.
Yep, there it is. Snack Time Cabbage Patch Kid doll by Mattel. Third one down for YouTube. Most dangerous doll toy attacks ever.
And people were freaking out. 'Cause I remember I had one of those little cars that you put on the ground, and you kind of like you rev it forward, and then you let it go, and it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I did that a whole bunch of times, just like tank, and I got it stuck in my hair, and my mom had to cut it. But eventually, like it lost momentum, it just kind of stopped. Well, that thing, as long as there were batteries in it, it kept going because it just until the micro switch stopped being tripped.
Huh.
So if you gave it enough food, air quotes, like hair or whatever, it just kept on going until it reached scalp and just kept pulling. And it was nuts.
How did they not get caught in R&D? I don't.
Real quick, throwback to what Wes said earlier, that you're thinking the Transformer was Skylinks.
Huh.
He was a dinosaur Concorde that walked
There
and
it is.
turned into a pterodactyl.
Yep. Sounds about right.
God, Transformers got weird too.
And sort of related to that, my favorite part of the Transformers that they don't have anymore, at least what I can tell, is the simplest thing, the little sticker that was heat sensitive to tell what faction they were in. That was my favorite part of the whole like line of toys.
that.
I always
That'll
loved
be
figuring out which one it's going to be. Like, oh, is it going to be a good guy? Oh, it's a bad guy. Oh, it's a Decepticon. Oh my god! Like, I don't know. I just love that. And they don't have those anymore, which makes me sad.
That was the Battle Beast thing too.
So, as if we haven't geeked out about enough things already in this episode, what are you guys geeking out about?
Well, I am leaving tomorrow to go drive down to Florida, legitimately this time, to sell a truck and the RV.
Yay!
It is donezo. They are paid off by the people. We got paid. I'm picking up Daddy Warbucks tomorrow morning, and we're driving down to Florida so he can pick up his new RV. And it will be gone. And then hopefully, the beginning of next week, we'll get to close on the house. I'll give off keys to one thing and pick up keys to another.
Nice.
So I am mega excited.
And you will
That's
get
awesome.
Comcast internet and
Probably.
not have to worry about Verizon anymore.
I don't know which one's worse. I can't tell.
Speaking of internet,
You-
I'll go next. Sorry, go. You go ahead.
No. I was just going to make some sort of comment about not having to have RV internet anymore.
Oh yeah.
We're going to get in that house and it's going to be garbage. Freaking dial-up modem.
Yeah. Prodigy Online. Yeah, so speaking of internet, they did some digging around my house, and the line for Google Fiber is now attached to a box on the outside of my house. They haven't gone inside the house yet, but it's so close. It's so close.
That's awesome.
Why are we a family-friendly podcast?
Land parties
People can't,
incoming.
like, piggyback on his connection.
I wanted to slap. Wes saw the comment. I wanted to slap the guy from Google Fiber. I was like, "When you guys come into the tri-state area," and and how much do you pay your technicians? And the guy's like, here's the link to our things. It's like, yeah, you guys are nowhere near me, and there's no pay information.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing.
So I've been geeking out about that for years when they first announced Cary and the Raleigh area as being like a recipient of this. And they just been like dragging their feet. They were working so slow at like actually getting these lines out to people and stuff that AT&T had no interest in doing fiber at all until Google's like, hey, we're doing fiber in the Triangle area in North Carolina, and they swooped right in and just like took all these customers. like I know tons of next door neighbors that signed up for AT&T, but now that Google's knocking on the door, finally people are jumping ship and going to Google. I see them all up and down the street digging up stuff. So
now, is there still a threat of Google Fiber going away? Because I heard that was getting shut down.
I don't think they're expanding to any more cities than what they've already announced, but the ones that they've already agreed to, they're continuing those rollouts, to a certain degree. I'm sure not infinitely, but from what I understand. So it's hopefully going to be there for a while, at least long enough for me to use it.
I think Google Fiber alone has the potential to overturn the net neutrality repeal.
If they, I don't understand how they're not immensely more successful.
Must be expensive for them.
Well, absolutely.
It's infrastructure of the towns. They have to agree to a lot of stuff.
You're building infrastructure, so that's gonna be murderous. That's why FiOS stopped expanding for a while. I know the cost comparison was for Comcast to send someone out to do an install was like, I think $200 or something like that cost to the company, and for FiOS to do it, it was $1,500. Mostly because of the fiber line they had to run. So yeah, you're building the infrastructure. It's going to be immensely expensive. But if you can get past that and just start sucking up customers, and all they have to do is beat anybody in customer service, which isn't hard. But
Mark, what are you geeking out about?
I don't even know. Oh, you know what? I did find something to geek out about tonight. I went on Amazon and I got a little thing saying, "Oh, there's these things." I've never heard of this before. Have you guys ever heard of Mega Constructs?
Yes.
Well, they have like HeMan and Skeletor figures, like little tiny Lego sized HeMan and Skeletor, pretty detailed. And I was like, "Oh,
Constructs?
oh, cool."
They're repurposing the name, but it's a different product.
It looks like it's like Mega Bloks Lego-ish.
There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, they're reusing the name, but it really is essentially Mega Bloks.
Yeah.
They're trying to stay alive in competition to Legos. Yeah.
And then I found they have like little aliens figures, xenomorph figures, and a space marine, and and I went down this hole real quickly, and I'm like, oh no.
Mega Bloks are not welcome in my house.
Agreed.
Hey,
They don't fit quite right, and if I find one in there, because my wife bought a set one time that were Bobo Legos, and I'm like, absolutely not. And she did not understand why I was so emphatic.
Yep.
And I tried to put something on the thing, and it didn't fit together. And I'm like, it was a little off. The color palette was off. I'm like, it's like you could sniff it out. Like, this is a wrong Lego.
That's like third-party
Get it
controllers
out.
in my house. No, sir. Get out.
Now, see, I got to give them credit though. They like the figures they have are pretty cool. Like they got Destiny figures, but I just found something that Wes is gonna want to buy. They have Mega Bloks has a robot Krang suit figure. So he's gigantic, and Krang is in him, and then they got regular minifigure sized Ninja Turtles fighting him. It's $17. That's really cool looking.
So, Sean, what are you geeking out about?
There's a show on Netflix. It's been on Netflix for a while, I think, but I just started watching it, called Myths and Monsters, I think is the title. And it goes back and talks about, actually, myths and monsters from a lot of different cultures. And it's really interesting from like a informational standpoint, but the way they're presenting it is really cool. It's because they have the like these old style paintings where they've animated them, kind of like they're doing like After Effects, where things like start moving. And this is really entertaining. I've watched only the first 2 episodes, and I can't wait to watch the rest. They're really, really cool, especially if you're interested in myth and the hero's journey and all that sort of information. It's really cool.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, and thank you to Sean. When I was sick the other day, I binged watched Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah.
Great show. It is
It is
awesome
a great show.
And I just learned, unfortunately, tonight from Bob's mom that Jerry Seinfeld is doing a show right up the road in Louisville, and I didn't know anything about it, or I would have got tickets and went. I think Bob's sister is there tonight, so I was pretty jealous. Oh, and I forgot about this too. I got a Switch the other day.
Huzzah!
It is awesome.
What game you got? Zelda?
Yeah, I got Zelda and I got Mario Kart. This
Nice.
is the welcome to the house present for the kids that they have not seen or played or touched yet.
Sweet.
Sorry, kids. I've been playing this for 2 weeks. Ha ha.
First night I got it, I did not realize that it was 3:30 in the morning whenever I stopped playing.
That's right.
You can get drunk on that game really quick.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so we would love to hear from all of you. Our inbox has been a little bit lonely lately. We know that people are listening, but we would love to hear any questions, suggestions, or ideas that you have for the show. Just go ahead and leave those suggestions on the contact page of makinggeeks.com. And once again, right there on our homepage. Remember, you can listen to all of our past episodes and check out all the guests we've had on the show. Last week, we had the great Caleb Kraft from Make. So check out that episode if you have not yet listened to it. That is makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us across the social media plethora on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast, on Twitter and Facebook at Making Geeks.
I'd like to thank our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for their continued support for our show. Their ongoing financial contributions actually are helping us plan future events coming up in the first half of this year. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we can get the details worked out. But thanks to you guys for your support. And Mr. Seth Williams, thank you for being the top patron. We appreciate all of you. Thank you.
And for those who actually follow along with the show habitually, the first half of the year, if you can do the math, can kind of determine what it is that we're trying to work on with those funds from Patreon. So we're on episode, 80? 80 now? Yeah.
Yep.
So figure that out. But if you want to find our own work individually all over the internet, you can look at geekbuilders.net, geeksmithing.com, Asylum Designs on Instagram, Thingiverse, Twitter, and Facebook, and thepiworkshop.com. And we'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with us this week. Touching back in a little bit of nostalgia. We got back in the nostalgia machine. I don't know if we had sound effects the last time we were in the nostalgia machine. We need to find some.
We need a soundboard. We're going to get a soundboard with that Patreon money as well.
Big one.
That's a bad idea.
That depends on who you give access to it.
Exactly.
The Josh soundboard, for anyone that remembers that, was
That was
pretty
fun.
awesome.
We should make
That
that a
was-
Patreon reward.
There you go.
Oh God.
Oh, man. I laughed so hard listening to that because I could barely hear. Like, I was like, what the hell was that? I was like, was that me? And you just kept it going.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
that
that
was-
don't remember, I made a soundboard for Josh was out sick or not
I don't
available.
think it was on work travel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I made a soundboard using audio clips from different sources and triggered it at different perfect times. So it was quite fun.
That was probably the most flattering thing I think anybody has done for me.
Aw.
It was so silly, but it was so flattering. So thank you.
You're welcome.
But we hope you stay tuned every Saturday when we drop a new episode. And we hope you all have a fantastic week.
See you guys.
Take care. Go
Later.
play some toys.